Good morning, everyone. This is with Microcom Technologies, and I'd like to thank all of you for attending today's webinar with Cambium Networks. Today's host is Trevor Miranda. He is a fellow there at Cambium presenting today. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to submit them in the question box, and Trevor will answer them at the end of today's presentation. I'll read them off to him when he's ready for the question and answer segment of our presentation today. Trevor, I am finished for now. Please go ahead and take it on over.
Thanks, Shirley, and welcome everybody. Today we'll talk about frictionless Wi-Fi. Here I'll give a brief introduction about Cambium's enterprise Wi-Fi product line called cnPilot. If you look at the number of people that are online and connected today, that's a huge number, 3.5 billion. And these 3.5 billion people are generating almost 1.5 zettabytes of data every day. A zettabyte being 1 followed by 21 zeros. That's a huge number. But if you look at the flip side of this, there are still 4 billion people that are unconnected across the globe who do not have easy, regular access to the internet. And that is a vast opportunity here. And we at Cambium are uniquely positioned using a wireless fabric to connect people, no matter where they are, through a point-to-point and point-to-multi-point systems that help distribute internet access to the remotest corners, as well as with our Wi-Fi product line, where we enable fast, affordable Wi-Fi to the edge. So today, I'll be focusing on our Wi-Fi solutions and how they can help connect all these people. Here's a brief look at our product portfolio. On the left-hand side, you see the E410 and E600, which are our dual-band 11AC Wave 2 products, 2x2 and 4x4 respectively. On the right, you see a family of outdoor products, the E500, 501S, and 502S, which are respectively Omni 120-degree sector and 30-degree sector antennas built in. In the middle, you see a solution for the hospitality industry. That's the E430W, and I'll talk a little more about it, this product, which we introduced this month, a little later. Now, all these products are managed by our cloud-based cnMaestro Wi-Fi controller. Our management options come in various flavors. It can be on the cloud through cnMaestro, fully managed by Cambium. We set up the data centers, we take backups and so on. All you need to do is plug in your AP and access your user interface. You can also install cnMaestro on premises. It's downloadable as a VM. And then everything stays in-house. You maintain your own servers for cnMaestro. A third option we have is Autopilot, which is a solution for smaller deployments where you don't need a separate controller. There, one of the APs behaves as through which you manage it, other APs. And I'll go in a little bit more detail about how you can use this flexible architecture. Let's talk a little bit about Wi-Fi in general and about how Cambium solution fits into this gradual progression and evolution of Wi-Fi over the past several years. Now, when Wi-Fi was first introduced, you had individual APs. Worked well enough for small deployments where you just installed an AP and then you individually configured them, individually monitored them. But as Wi-Fi began to be used in the enterprise, this model, which worked okay for homes and very small businesses, didn't work very well at the enterprise. You had problems of not being able to manage the entire network and so on. So a bunch of companies around that time in early 2002, like Symbol Technologies, introduced a new architecture. This consisted of a thin AP accompanied by a controller. We call it a thin AP because the APs themselves offloaded much of their control plane and all of the management to a separate device, a box called a controller, which processed packets at high speeds and also provided a management interface. This solved a major problem because now the network admin only needed to manage that one box. and that was a single point of view into the network. The problem with this was that a controller was now a bottleneck. Your throughput was limited by what the controller could do. And that was also a single point of failure. If the controller goes down, your whole network goes down. The next step in this evolution was to enable local bridging on the APs. The APs now gained a lot more logic. While they were still managed by the controller and they could still bridge traffic through the controller, they now had the option of local bridging. So now, especially as 11n came into play and speeds offered by Wi-Fi increased, this got rid of the bottleneck of the controller. On the flip side, since the APs now had much more sophisticated logic on them, required much more processing power, the cost of the APs themselves increased. The next stage is smart edge APs. Now, these APs don't require a controller. Instead, the APs themselves coordinate between themselves and perform the required functionality that the controller used to do in a distributed manner. This was great as you got rid of the costly controller. It was more resilient in one sense that there was no longer a single point of failure. However, this did not scale well. The problem with this was that the inter-AP traffic to handle all the control and management in a distributed manner limited how large these networks could grow, maybe to a few dozen APs. The next stage is cloud-managed APs. Here, the controller is moved to the cloud. This gets rid of a pain point for IT. They no longer need to manage a controller. They no longer need to worry about having redundancy on the controller, performing backups of management data. All that is handled by someone else in the cloud. So this is much more easy to manage. You just plug in an AP and the cloud comes into play. The problem with this is you're dependent on the cloud. What happens when your WAN link goes down? You lose much of your functionality. Clients are no longer able to associate to the AP. You no longer have a view into what your network is doing. This is where Cambium comes in. Our APs are cloud-managed smart edge devices. We retain the benefits of the previous generations, which is making them very easy to deploy and manage because you have a cloud-based controller option. At the same time, the APs are still smart devices that can handle all functionality themselves if your WAN link to the cloud goes down. Even if your connectivity to the controller goes down, the APs can still handle things like fast roaming, association of clients using WPA2. They can handle channel selection and so on independently of the controller. So while the controller is there, they are managed by the controller. They send back statistics to the controller. But if that link goes down, your network doesn't go down. You still retain access to your local resources. So this makes it much more easier to manage while retaining the scalability of a cloud-managed system, while keeping it all very affordable without the overhead of a controller locally. Let me talk a little about what CN Pilot architecture is founded on. There are three pillars that we have based our product portfolio on. The first being frictionless operations, making it easier to deploy and manage your network. Adaptive architecture. We do not mandate a particular architecture. For instance, some Wi-Fi product families require you to have a controller-based architecture with traffic tunnel back to a central device. Some require you to do everything locally. Some require you to have a controller in the cloud. We do not require you to do any of these. Our architecture is very flexible and adapts to your existing network design. Finally, while retaining all these features, having a very featureful product line, we also have affordable quality as an important goal. We have made use of our existing pedigree in point-to-point and point-to-multipoint products, building high-quality product that lasts for years, while keeping the Wi-Fi APs affordable. So let's talk a little bit more about how we make it frictionless. There are several features that make this up, and I'll talk about a few of them. The first is auto-tune, which is a family of features that include band steering. Now, a lot of client devices are dual band today. However, devices like your phone might not make the best decision as to which channel to associate the device on. The Wi-Fi AP might be dual band, offering both 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz. And as you probably know, 5 gigahertz offers much higher performance. There are many more channels to choose from. There's a lot less interference. But a phone or a laptop or a tablet must still associate on 2.4. What band steering does is it detects these devices, knows that they are dual band, and then forces them to join on 5 gigahertz. Thus, keeping 2.4 for those clients that absolutely need it and improving the throughput that these devices obtain. And the second is dynamic channel selection. The RF environment, the RF spectrum around where you have installed your AP is dynamic. It can change day to day. People might install new wireless devices. They might install metal objects around your AP that can change what the spectrum looks like. So it's essential that the AP be flexible and react to its environment quickly. What dynamic channel selection does is continuously monitor all the channels. And when a situation arises that a current channel is no longer optimal, what it does is it automatically switches to a different channel. And all of this can be done in a coordinated manner between APs, making sure that they all coordinate the channel selection in such a way that it is optimal for the entire network. Airtime fairness. You have a mix of old and new devices in your network. You might have 11N devices mixed with 11AC, maybe even 11G devices in some environments. Now, the typical way packets are fairly distributed between devices is to give them equal number of bytes. Everybody gets the same number of packets to transmit in the shared medium. The problem with that is the older clients take much longer to transmit the same packet of the same size compared to a newer client, say 11N versus 11AC system. What you will end up seeing in such a scenario is that most of the airtime is taken up by the older clients, while the newer clients, which would be capable of much higher throughput, get a small slice of the airtime. So instead, what we do when this feature is enabled is to give everybody equal time. While the older clients might transmit less data in the smaller slice of time, the newer clients are able to transmit many times more data in that same period of time. What this does is it improves the overall throughput of your network when you include both the old and new clients. Dynamic power adjustment. The typical way that you deploy an enterprise Wi-Fi network is with multiple APs, each forming a cell, and with the cells overlapping, like you see in the picture here. Now, what happens when one of the APs shuts down, either maybe some fault in wiring or maybe the AP itself has some issues? The neighboring APs detect this, and what they do is they increase the transmit power level. With this, they increase the cell size and are hence able to cover up the hole created by the loss of one AP. Now, all these features are controllerless. In other words, the APs can independently, being smart edge APs, independently implement all these features, coordinate amongst themselves to get all of this working without having an always on connection to cnMaestro. Let's talk about adaptive architecture now, the second pillar. cnMaestro, as I mentioned earlier, is available through the cloud, where you don't have to set up any servers. You just plug in your AP and it phones home and is available in your account for management. That is one way of deploying cnMaestro and cnPilot. Now, while the management is through the cloud, your data can be locally bridged or tunneled back to a concentrator. The second option is to have cnMaestro installed locally. So you set up your own servers, you download the cnMaestro VM and run it in your own network. So this gives you full control over the controller, and your management data stays within your network. The third option we have is autopilot. Autopilot is a mode in which you don't have a separate cnMaestro controller. Instead, you have a small autonomous network with a dozen or 2 dozen APs, where one of the APs behaves as the autopilot master. Through this single AP, you have a user interface that lets you manage all the other APs in the network, lets you view statistics, perform upgrades, send configuration changes. So in all these three scenarios, you have full control over your network. You have multiple options depending on your preference as to where your management system lies. We also have options as far as how the traffic is bridged, and I briefly touched on this earlier. You can locally bridge traffics from the APs themselves, or you can tunnel this traffic to another device, which then bridges the traffic out. This device to which you tunnel the traffic can be cnMaestro itself, or it can be a third-party gateway. We have standard tunneling protocols. We support both GRE as well as L2TP. And you're not tied to using the same tunneling method or local bridging method on all your WLANs. Each and every WLAN can be configured individually. For instance, you could have a guest WLAN that you want to locally bridge or tunnel to another device. And you can set limits on this guest WLAN as far as what speeds allowed on these guest WLANs, how much bandwidth quota you allow to each guest. At the same time, you could have an employee network that behaves very differently, a completely independent WLAN on the same AP where traffic is locally bridged instead of being tunneled. Similarly, the authentication methods on the employee WLAN will be different. You'll have a secure WPA2 enterprise-based authentication. So you have all these options. You can mix and match within the same network depending on your requirements. Here is an example of a deployment where this flexibility was very useful. This is an annual event called InfoGamer in Croatia. This is an event where you have gamers come in who compete amongst themselves. You also have a huge audience of about 70,000 visitors over a course of a few days who come in to watch these events, engage in gaming themselves. As you might know, gaming is a fairly demanding activity in terms of network usage. Users want acceptable latency as well as being able to have high throughput. Now, these folks were unsatisfied with their existing Wi-Fi vendor, and they decided to try out cnPilot in 2016. You can read the event CEO's comments down there at the right. They had a huge number of users being able to simultaneously connect wirelessly, and the product delivered as far as reliability, capacity, and easy management was concerned. So they were able to very quickly deploy cnPilot into the existing network architecture and bring it up and running. They were very happy with the result using a mix of indoor and outdoor APs, and they came back to using cnPilot last year too. So this illustrates how cnPilot can be used in environments like these that can be fairly demanding, both in terms of coverage area as well as user expectations of throughput. Let's look at cnMaestro, the Wi-Fi controller, a bit more closely. cnMaestro is our single management plane for all our devices. So while I'll not talk about our PDP and PMP devices, Today, cnMaestro not just manages Wi-Fi, but is the manager for Cambium's entire portfolio of products. So it provides an end-to-end view into your network. If you happen to be a service provider who uses not just Wi-Fi, but also a wireless for backhaul and distribution, you have a single interface to all your wireless devices. So cnMaestro, you perform your normal network operations like upgrades. You can view your statistics, your onboard new devices. It's a very scalable network platform. Now, while you're on the cloud, you don't have to worry about adding new servers, about what happens when you add thousands of new devices. We handle it behind the scenes. Similarly, if you install it locally too, you can use the same cnMaestro VM, upgrading the number of CPUs or memory available to it as required, and it scales to your network. From the smallest networks of, say, a few dozen devices to 10,000 devices or more. Something we've introduced recently and is at the moment in beta is the managed service provider interface. Now, a lot of our VARs are today going into the managed service. And a lot of Wi-Fi users no longer want to manage the Wi-Fi themselves, but instead want somebody else with a technical proficiency and with somebody who has the IT expertise to manage the Wi-Fi network. We see this happening in education, hospitality, retail, and many other verticals. cnMaestro lets you do that. The managed service provider interface lets you partition your network or partition your system into multiple networks. Each network within the system can have its own admins. You can create multiple user roles, such as super users, admins. You can have some users with read-only access. So that way, let's say you are providing a managed service to a school, a couple of hotels, you can create independent networks for them. You as a managed service provider have a global view into all your individual networks. Well, you can create individual users at, say, a particular hotel where the hotel manager can log in and has read-only access to check whether his network is up and running fine. So you have multiple tenants within your own network. We have a branded page so that when your customers to whom you're providing this managed service login see your logo, see your company name. And of course, being cloud-based, this can be accessed anywhere. So at Cambium, our wireless fabric covers end-to-end solutions that handle the backhaul through our point-to-point links, distribution to point-to-multipoint, indoor Wi-Fi through our CN Pilot Enterprise Series indoor products, as well as outdoor through our CN Pilot E500 series. And we provide you connectivity as required, whether it's point-to-point or point-to-multipoint or wireless mesh. And again, all of this is managed through cnMaestro, which is a single pane of glass through which you can configure, operate, and manage your network. Let's take a look at some deployments we have in education where cnMaestro has been used along with the point-to-point and point-to-multipoint systems providing the backhaul for a Wi-Fi. Plymouth School District is a district with a mixture of elementary, middle, and high schools. They have over 150 devices in use. Dunman is a large high school in Singapore. They too use CN Pilot. We have other deployments across the world, including in Italy and UK, where CN Pilot is in use in the education environment. As part of our frictionless Wi-Fi, we have Easy Detect, which lets you quickly troubleshoot your network and find out where the problem lies. Over here, you see a screenshot of a view into a network with wireless backhaul as well as CN Pilot Wi-Fi. As you can see, and at the top half of this picture, you can quickly see whether your backhaul is up and running, whether your Wi-Fi AP is reachable and managed. You can take this all in a single glance if you're using both wireless backhaul as well as Wi-Fi edge. Besides that, there are a number of features that help you remotely troubleshoot things at the edge, regardless of whether you're using a wireless backhaul or you have a fiber optic backhaul. These features are in place even if you have a wired connectivity to your wireless AP. First, you can see there's an unconnected clients table. Under that tab, you can quickly look at clients that were unable to associate because of certain common problems which have been identified by the system. For instance, somebody might come up to you and say that their phone is not able to connect to the network. One very common reason, for instance, is that somebody typed in the wrong pre-shared key, the wrong wireless password. So the system identifies this. You don't need to do too much troubleshooting. Just log into that tab and you see that this client was not able to associate because of this particular problem. We make it easier for you to identify devices that you're troubleshooting. For instance, you see there's a manufacturer section. On the left-hand side, there's a column with a name. So for instance, somebody comes up to you and says, my iPhone isn't able to connect. You don't need to go and remotely try to figure out what their MAC address is, what their IP address is, which can be quite difficult if the user is not technically proficient. Instead, you'll see a name on the left, whatever name they've assigned to the iPhone, and see something like John's iPhone. And then you can quickly look up its statistics. Does it have an IP address? Is the RSSI okay? Is the SNR, the AP is hearing from that particular client, all right? So this makes it much easier to troubleshoot things remotely. We have a Wi-Fi analyzer. What this does is runs through a scan of the RF environment at the site. And you can all trigger this all from cnMaestro. So you don't have to send somebody with a Wi-Fi analyzer laptop to the site when issues arise. And there are considerable savings there in terms of time as well as a physical trip to the site. If you really want to dig deep in, you can even do packet captures remotely. You can trigger the packet capture from cnMaestro, and the AP will capture packets on its wired or wireless interface as you specify with the usual filters. So cnMaestro makes it much easier to troubleshoot your network while doing all this from the comfort of your office, enabling considerable savings in time and expense. One of our major outdoor deployments and one of our major pushes in connecting the unconnected is to the XWF program. There are a number of ISPs here that have deployed outdoor and indoor Wi-Fi under this program across the developing world in India, Southeast Asia, and Africa. And these systems use a combination of our Wi-Fi as well as a backhaul, because many of these are remote areas without fiber optic. So they use the PTP820, which is a point-to-point wireless solution, along with the PMP450 to distribute connectivity to various points within a town. And finally, we have Wi-Fi providing the connectivity at the edge. Here is another example of one of our larger customers. This is a wireless ISP in India that has deployed over 7,000 APs so far and is continuing to deploy hundreds of APs every month. Now, a lot of these deployments in public Wi-Fi, in hospitality and other scenarios require guest access. This is where easy access, our guest access solution, comes in. We have inbuilt in cnMaestro a fully customizable portal where you can set individual throughput rates or throughput limits, time limits, and data quota limits. You can enforce login using various methods. There is social login using Facebook, Google Plus, and Microsoft 360. You can require paid access, in which case we integrate with various uh, payment processors like PayPal and several others. You can enforce logging using vouchers, where the user is given a voucher with a particular code on it, and they use that code to log in. And associated with that particular voucher, again, you have limits on when the voucher expires, how much bandwidth you can use, what your quota is. So you have all these options. It's very flexible. You can also mix and match. You can say have free access for an hour and then require people to pay for access beyond it. Or you can have multiple plans with the following a freemium model where you have free access using social login that gives you 1 Mbps, and you can pay for faster access. Now, if you want to go beyond that, again, we are very flexible. We integrate with uh, many other guest portal vendors like Purple, Wi-Fi, iPass, and Capto, and the list is growing every month. So depending on your requirements, if cnMaestro's easy access fits your needs, you can go ahead and deploy a very flexible guest access solution, very featureful in just a few clicks. But if you today have an existing solution that fits your needs, you can go ahead and integrate cnPilot with those two. And these are some of our customers using our guest access solution along with Wi-Fi for their employee use. Uh, on the left, you can see a hotel that's using our indoor products and is now expanding to the E430 for hospitality use. As you know, Wi-Fi is a very strong indicator of customer satisfaction in the hospitality industry. A poor experience with Wi-Fi can mean that the guest has a very poor opinion of your hotel as a whole. They leave bad feedback on various review forums. So it's very important for your Wi-Fi to provide a seamless, easy, and high throughput experience to your guests. So we have customers across the world who are relying on cnPilot to provide that experience. I very briefly touched on a 430W earlier. This is the latest member of the cnPilot family. This particular AP introduced this month comes in the wallplate form factor. It comes in an attractive package suitable for the hospitality industry, for MDUs and other such deployments, where you can very easily install this AP into an existing wall plate. So this comes with all the features that are standard across cnPilot. It's a dual band Wave 211 AC product. It also has a Bluetooth radio that will be enabled for Bluetooth locationing and presence. It supports up to 16 wireless LANs, 256 clients. So it's, despite its small size, it's featureful. And again, it supports all our cnPilot features like automatic RF management using auto RF to make sure that all the different APs across all the rooms are on the best possible channels. Controllerless roaming supported for a seamless experience as guests move across the property. They also support meshing if required. Let's say you want to include some outdoor areas like the swimming pool or outdoor restaurants. And you can simply mesh any of our products, such as our outdoor E500, with any of our other products. You can always mix and match. And again, as far as management is concerned, you have all the options of cloud-based management, on-premises management, as well as autopilot. Here are a few more details on what the 430W looks like. So at the back, you have a port, ETH1, that can be used to power the device over PoE, standard PoE, as well as provide data connectivity. There's also a pass-through port, which can be used to simply connect a non-IP device using a separate connection. At the bottom, you have multiple ports. So you can connect multiple devices there, and I'll show you some examples of what you can connect there and how these can be used. This can also be powered separately using DC power, using a separate adapter. So in case you have an existing building which has wiring but does not support PoE, you can still uh, provide data connectivity through the back while powering it separately through a DC adapter. Now, this is primarily used as a wall mounted using a single gang bracket, which ships along with the device. But there are a bunch of other accessories that can be used to mount it in other ways. We also have a dual gang bracket available as an accessory. This can be desktop mounted. It has an attractive desktop stand to which it can be secured uh, using a secure screw. It can be used in that manner too. And finally, if you want to just mount it on a wall in general without uh, a single gang space, you can just use this wall mount accessory. So you have this multiple ports and multiple connectivity options with this. Typically, the way you'll deploy it is your Wi-Fi capable devices, of course, connect wirelessly to it over 5 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz, depending on the capabilities of the Wi-Fi device. We have a PoE out port available. So this device, the E430W, can power your PoE powered IP phone. That takes up one of the uh, network interfaces. If you have an IPTV set up there in the hotel room, you can also use one of the ports to connect the set-top box to your network. And each of the ports and wireless LANs can be mapped to different VLANs. So you can always segment your network with a different VLAN for guest Wi-Fi connectivity, a separate VLAN for your IP phones, a third VLAN for your set-top box, because typically you have multicast traffic there that you don't want to leak onto other networks. And of course, there's one port left over for wired Ethernet connectivity for your guests. And the pass-through port that I mentioned that can be used to connect non-IP devices like fax machines or legacy phones. At the other end, cnMaestro provides APIs using a RESTful interface in JSON. We have a published API available on our support site that can be used to integrate cnMaestro with your existing property management system. And many of our customers have integrated these with various PMSs. We have role-based access control. So depending on what kind of access you want to allow to the APIs and to cnMaestro, you can pick and choose. So all of this integrates into an end-to-end system, right from your PMS to your end devices that provide a very unique customer experience. Make sure your hotel guests go away happy. And these are some of our customers across the world who are deploying our indoor products, our outdoor Wi-Fi, as well as a Wi-Fi in the hospitality industry. We've won numerous awards for our wireless technology. For instance, at WISPA, the Wireless ISP Association, last year we won the product of the year for our PMP products, service of the year for cnMaestro, a management solution, as well as overall manufacturer of the year. Now we have various support options. We provide you with phone support, email support, but we also have a growing community. We have a number of forums on which our customers come in, post queries, ask for help with issues, and both Cambium users as well as our company engineers are available there, respond to your queries. We have a knowledge base there with solutions for various common deployment questions. So you can join this, and we welcome you there and welcome your thoughts on the product as well as your use cases. So thank you for your time. I hope this was a useful introduction to you to Cambium Networks, CN Pilot Frictionless Wi-Fi. I'll take the questions now if there are any.
Thank you very much, Trevor, for that excellent presentation. And yes, it looks like we do have some questions for you. I'll read them off to you one at a time. First question here, someone asks, what if the AP is connected, what if the AP it connected to wasn't configured properly, so that it doesn't receive data? Will it still connect to the AP?
I'm not sure whether you're talking about connectivity to cnMaestro or wireless client connectivity. So as far as connectivity to cnMaestro is concerned, if you misconfigure the device and it loses connectivity to cnMaestro, then what it does is the device detects it, and if it's a configuration change that results in loss of connectivity, it reverts to the last known good configuration. Not sure if that was a question, but if not, maybe you could provide a few more details.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. I have another question. I have several other questions here for you. Does Cambium Networks have any simulators, for example, that would help one understand how the products work?
Okay, so if you want experience with the product and product user interface itself, cnMaestro is free to sign up for, and you can always create an account there and get a look and feel of what it's like. If you're looking for simulators in terms of RF coverage, we do provide antenna patterns for various common simulation systems like IB Wave, Air Magnet, and others. And you can download those antenna patterns and import it into the product and see what the RF coverage would look like.
Thank you very much. I have another question here for you. How many CN models can we connect as mesh? Do you have any bundle packs for that?
Yeah, so we do not limit the number of devices in a mesh. It's entirely up to you. But as you probably know, due to the nature of the mesh technology itself, throughput reduces as you increase the number of hops. And of course, the more mesh clients you have, the performance will suffer. But we do not impose any limit. The limit is essentially the same as the number of wireless clients, which is, depending on the product, it's greater than 200.
Thank you, Trevor. I have another question here for you. I know you talked about support for the various different things that people would normally need. Could you tell us a little bit about the hours of support and what is the best way to contact Cambium for any technical support?
Right. So we provide 24/7, 365 support. You get 1 year of support when you purchase your device. We have additional plans with other features that can be purchased. We have multiple levels of premium support as well as other levels, gold, silver, platinum support. You can have advanced replacement. You have all those options. To contact us for support, you can go to support.cambiumnetworks.com. You'll need to create an account there. And then you can contact us over email. You can raise a support case right there online, or you can simply call us. And we are available 24/7 on the phone. And that is something many of our customers really like. They like the fact that we have a person they can talk to in 24/7 in case they have any issues. In addition to that, if you prefer going the self-support method, you can always log into our forums at community.cambiumnetworks.com. And if that is your preferred way of getting support, you can always create a new thread there. And not just Cambium engineers, but some of our other users will also respond.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I was just going to ask you about the Cambium forum. So anyone has access to that, is that correct? Us distributors as well as customers can all go on to the forum and look around, read around, ask questions and all that sort of thing?
That's right. So you just need to create an account. It's free. There are no limitations, whether you're an existing Cambium customer or not. If you just want to view the other threads, you don't even need to create an account. But if you want to post something, you need to create one.
Thank you very much. Next question here. How many APs and clients can be on one autopilot network?
Okay, so the limit is 24 devices. Um, that's how many APs can be managed by a single master AP. If you have a bigger network, we recommend you either go to cnMaestro or use segment your networks. Now keep in mind that cnMaestro is available at no charge. You don't have to pay for it. And if you go for the cloud managed version, you don't even have to set up a separate box with cnMaestro. So a lot of vendors, when you use solutions from many other vendors, you are forced not to use their cloud-based management solution because of cost. But here we have eliminated that barrier. And as your network goes larger, you can start off with Autopilot and then move on to cnMaestro without any additional licensing fees or annual fees whatsoever.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Another question here asks, does Autopilot support mesh?
So at the moment, you cannot configure mesh through Autopilot, but this is a feature we are looking at adding in the near future.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Trevor, for answering all of those questions. And thank you to everyone for attending today. And if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to contact their sales rep or email us at sales@microcomtech.com. Please remember that this webinar presentation has been recorded and it will be uploaded to our Microcom YouTube channel so it can be viewed over and over again. Thank you so much, Trevor, for your time and your presentation today. We greatly appreciated all this wonderful, valuable information as well. Everybody have a fantastic day.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Trevor. Bye-bye now.